everyone, I'm back today with my October wrap-up. I've kind of gone back to doing monthly wrap-ups instead of one every 2 weeks, just because I'm reading less and it's not a problem to me. I just don't have a lot of time to read. So here you have my October wrap-up. I'm going to start with these two books, which are the first two books in the Liveship Traders trilogy by Robin Hobb. And as you can see, they are humongous. They are about 900 pages each, and I read them in October. Now, the first book I gave 4 stars because it was good. It was really good. I mean, if you like fantasy and you like an original story and an original world building, then you're probably going to like this series. But the second book I had some problems with, and I gave it 2.5 stars, which surprised me because a lot of people have read this series and rated it 5 stars throughout, which is amazing and which is why I picked them up. But I just felt like the first book was amazing because it set the world for us and it introduced the characters, which are really good. But the second book became way too dragging, and I don't think it needed to be 900 pages long, honestly. So yeah, I now have a third book, the last book in the trilogy, which I will probably wait a little bit with reading, just because I wasn't that much into the second one. But still, remember that I'm not the biggest fantasy reader, so if you are, definitely check out the series and don't take my word for granted. I'm probably going to get some hate now, because I wasn't a huge fan of the next book, but I know of so many people who loved it. But that is The Bluest Eye by Toni Morrison. I felt a huge disconnect to the characters and the story because it was very messy and I just couldn't get into it, basically. I do agree that this book deals with some very important topics, and for that reason I rated it 2 stars out of 5. But all in all, I just wasn't a fan. This book was very brutal, and in my opinion it became way too exaggerated. I mean, in some scenes I almost couldn't breathe from reading this book. It became way too brutal and there was no hope in this story. And I mean, I just needed a little bit of hope, but I didn't get it, so that also frustrated me when reading it. Then we have The Woman in White by Wilkie Collins, which I actually read on my Kindle, but I have this beautiful edition. The reason why I didn't read this edition is because it's very unhandy. It's not that easy to take with you and read, unless you want to ruin the cover, and I don't want that. But I read this book, I loved it, so good. But I still gave it 3 stars because while I loved it, I had some problems with the last part of the book, which made me downgrade my original 4 stars to 3 stars. But basically, such a great Victorian novel. It has some mystery in it, and it turns more into a detective novel. So it has a lot of elements in it, and I also really love the characters. They were so good, and I was a bit disappointed that it wasn't as scary as I thought it would be. But nevertheless, I really enjoyed it, and as I said, I gave it 3 stars. Actually, I think I gave it 3.5, just to place myself in the middle. Next, I read the phenomenal, the amazing The Wise Man's Fear by Patrick Rothfuss. Now, I already did a full video review of my thoughts on the first 2 books in this series, so I'm not going to talk too much about it. I will link the video down below. But I loved it, such great fantasy, and this book has given me a hangover. Seriously, I haven't been able to read fantasy after this one and enjoy it. So yeah, I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but I loved it. Obviously I gave it 5 stars. Next is A Tree Grows in Brooklyn by Betty Smith. A very orange book, but it is about a family who grows up in Brooklyn. They are very poor, and we in particular follow a little girl, the little girl in the family. It's a very touching and moving story. I liked it. I gave it 4 stars. I don't know what else to say. It's really good. Just read it. The same goes for the next book, which I loved. Loved. And that is A Prayer for Owen Meany by John Irving. This book's not for everyone. I think I've said this before, that John Irving has a unique writing style. He has a unique way of telling stories. But I love it. So if you have read other works by John Irving and you love them, then I think you will like this one as well. But this one is about Owen Meany, who accidentally kills his best friend's mother through baseball. And the interesting thing about that is that Owen Meany claims that God controls his actions. So he doesn't control having killed his best friend's mother. As you can hear, it's kind of a religious book, but I don't think it became too religious. It has the best anecdotes, it has the best characters. I just loved it, and I don't know, it's a very huge book, but I loved almost every page of it. I do remember that some parts I felt were a little bit dull, if I could say so. I mean, John Irving uses references to things that happened in the 1960s in the USA, which I don't know about. I mean, I know about the Vietnam War because I've heard about it, I've read about it, but I don't know too much about the TV stars and the TV shows during that period, and he sometimes dwells a lot on that. But I still loved it, and I gave it 4.5 stars. Then I had The Gracekeepers by Kirsty Logan, which I also did a review of on my channel, so I will put that video down below. I like this book, but I wasn't the hugest fan, so I gave it 3 stars out of 5. I definitely see its potential. It is magical. This one transports you into another world, but in my opinion it lacked plot, so 3 stars for me. And the last book I read in October is Next Stop Rosen Street. Well, this is Swedish? Norwegian? I don't know. But I read it in Danish, so I don't know what the English title would be. Anyway, I read this book and I wasn't too impressed. I gave this one 2 stars. Maybe it's more like 1.5 star. While it is very relaxing and you don't have to think too much about what you're reading, which was what I was looking for, it is also very, very silly and predictable, and in the end I just couldn't take it anymore. I was like, finish this book now. So I did. It's about some characters who go through things in life that makes them struggle, and then they eventually meet up and things develop from there. As you can hear, it's not very interesting, so just don't read this book, in my opinion. And those are the books I read in October, so that's it. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will be back again soon with another video. Thank you so much for watching, and have a great day everyone. Happy reading, bye bye.